Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining in. I'm Tom. I'm a managing partner at Insights Consulting, and today I have this presentation for you. Mind the gap or mind the gaps towards consumer centricity. So I want to talk to you about what actually is needed to reach consumer centricity. This quote is one of my favorites. The only constant is change, and the rate of change is increasing. Or you could put it in other words, there will never be as little change in the world as we experience today. And in the last 12 months, during the pandemic, we have even seen, I think, an acceleration of the speed of change. The pandemic acted as a tailwind for a series of trends that were already going on, but that have just become more mature, more important, more urgent to act upon than they were before COVID-19. I'm talking here about digital technology and how, let's say, in 12 months' time, according to McKinsey, we have gained more than 7 years in digital adoption and maturity altogether. I'm also talking about things like purpose and companies thinking beyond profit and being more into societal change and having a positive impact on the world. We clearly see that those trends have become more mature, have become more important to act upon as an organization. And we have also seen that consumers expect companies to do more in these areas and in these fields. So the world is turning fast. The world we, as brands, as companies, as researchers, have to work in is changing almost every single day, now more than ever. And in this type of environment, it will be the fast fish that will eat the big fish. It will be the companies that have a constant finger on the pulse with what's happening in the world around them and that are able to act upon it quickly that will be not only the survivors, but the winners. So if you are a brand today, I think it's important to have a constant finger on the pulse, to know what it's going on in the world of your consumers, of your customers, and to have an agile organization that can turn all of those learnings, all of those insights into relevant actions, business actions, very quickly. Summarizing this is a great quote from David Jones, the former CEO of Havas. And he said, we need to move from marketing to consumers to mattering to people. We need to start from what it is that consumers and customers want and need. And we need to work from those insights to come up with relevant solutions. Of course, today, in a fast-moving world, we need to do that at speed. So we need to be more consumer-centric and more agile. But first, more consumer-centric. How can we be more consumer-centric? Well, I think consumer centricity is about closing gaps between the world of the consumer, the customer, and the brand. And we believe that there are 3 gaps that we need to close. The first one is the empathy gap. Most big companies, most brands have an issue with consumer or customer empathy. Most marketing people in organizations say that they only see consumers twice a year. Only twice a year they can interact with consumers. And that means that they are not confronted enough, probably, with the fact that they are not their consumers. In most cases, marketing people live a different life than their average consumer because they are slightly higher educated, they have slightly more money to spend, but also simply because of the fact that marketing people have to serve many different segments of consumers and they only live the life of one. And we see that this is a clear issue in marketing because a lot of marketing people make decisions from their own reality. A lot of marketing people use their gut feeling and their own experiences as a consumer to make marketing decisions. And if you are only meeting up with real consumers twice a year, and throughout the rest of the year, you have to learn what it is that consumers want and need from PowerPoint presentations, not seeing, feeling, almost touching those consumers, it's very hard to really understand what it is that consumers want. And it's very tricky as well, because in a lot of the cases, you will make interpretations of the data that you see in those PowerPoint presentations from your own reality, which is often not the day-to-day reality of consumers. So if we want to avoid that marketeers make bad marketing decisions, if we want to avoid that, for example, like it is today, 80% of the innovations that we bring to the market can be considered not a success 1 year after launch. If we want to avoid those things, probably we not only need insights and lots of data and all those beautiful PowerPoint presentations, we also need more consumer empathy. We need to see consumers more because we can only turn data into insights if we have consumer empathy. We can only make an interpretation of insights and turn insights into relevant marketing actions if we have enough empathy, if we understand enough what it is that consumers feel in that insight, what it is that consumers' problem is in that insight. So the first gap that we need to close if we want to become consumer-centric is the empathy gap. We need to see consumers more. And we clearly see that this is a need that lots of marketeers have. And I have to say that in the last 12 months, that need has become very visible, so to say. In the last 12 months, I have received more calls from marketing people and CMI people. Can we do some consumer connects over Zoom? Can we allow our marketing people, innovation people to meet an hour with the consumer every month? Can we do that? I've received more of those calls in the last 12 months than in the last 5 years. So the pandemic and the fact that we were all remote in lockdown situations has probably made it very visible that we don't see consumers enough and has made it very clear that we need more consumer empathy if we want great insights and if we want to leverage those great insights into relevant business solutions. So that's good news. So the first gap where we need to close is the empathy gap. The second gap that we need to close is what we call the relevance gap. We need to understand consumers 360 degree. We need to immerse into their lives. We need to have that constant finger on the pulse to be able to find insights. And of course, today we have beautiful research technology like research communities that allows us to be with our consumers almost every single day. And all of those learnings need to be turned into insights. Insights on 4 different levels. I think, yes, we need product insights. Yes, we need insights around the experience that we need to create around our products and services. But more than ever, we also need insights into the lives of our consumers and how we can play a relevant role as a brand into their lives. And like I've said before, today consumers not only expect more pieces of technology in the experiences and the products that we create for them, they also expect more than ever that companies play a role in society. So we also need insights on that aspect. What is the role that brands can play in society? If we have insights on those 4 levels, product and service, experience, digital, but also packaging, shopping experience, and so on, the role we can play as a brand in the lives of our consumers and customers, and the role as a brand customers expect us to play in society, we can create almost like the perfect value proposition. We can create the offer consumers almost can't refuse. But it's clear that in today's world, if we want to be relevant, we need more insights than ever before on different levels. And once we have those insights, we need to leverage those insights into relevant solutions, relevant communication, relevant products, relevant services. And companies today are in need for more and more relevant ideas. One of the solutions we have for this, or we apply for this, is creative crowdsourcing. We work together with creative consumers based on a business briefing and consumer insights. And those creative consumers are trying to solve the issue that has been explained, the consumer issue that has been explained in the insight, try to solve it. They try to find a solution for it that, of course, the brand can commercialize. Creative crowdsourcing, inviting creative consumers, leads to a boom of new and fresh ideas inside the company. So it's not that marketeers don't need to be creative anymore, don't need to brainstorm about ideas anymore. No, they get a little bit of help from the outside, from creative consumer, to boost the number and the relevance of the ideas. Like in this example for the Coca-Cola company, for the Fanta brand, they were looking for creative packaging ideas that were bringing the fun element of Fanta more to life. There were already 20 ideas within the company based on the insights, but then we briefed the insights and the business issue to the creative consumers, and more than 100 creative consumers brought in more than 112 additional fresh ideas. So all of a sudden we had 132 ideas. So it's not only about the quality of the insights and having insights on many different levels, but it's also about, once you have the insights, about having lots of ideas for potential solutions to solve the wishes, the needs, the issues that consumers are describing in those insights. So it's not only important to close the empathy gap, but also to close the relevance gap. The empathy gap is about, do you understand the everyday life of your consumers? Do you feel consumers? Are consumers for you more than just the abstract creatures that are being described in PowerPoint presentations? Do you know them? Do you feel them? But then you need proper research, you need proper insights, you need that constant finger on the pulse to be able to find insights on different levels. And once you have those insights, you need to be able to turn them into fantastic ideas. And today, you need more ideas and more relevant ideas if you want to beat the competition. And then finally, it's about closing the experience gap. And the experience gap is all about how we experience the brand as consumers in its communication, but also day to day when we experience the brand, when we use the brand, when we use their services. This is an example of TUI, the travel company. One of the things we did for them recently is we mapped the customer journey and we started to measure every touch point satisfaction. But we came to the conclusion that measuring every single touch point and touch point satisfaction in all those different touch points was only driving NPS for 22%. So there were more elements that were not within the control of the brand that were having an impact on the final NPS score. So we started to do some qualitative research to understand what are, in each of the different phases of the travel journey, higher lying needs. And we started to do an audit. Are we fulfilling, as a brand, as TUI, are we fulfilling the kind of need in that phase? Are we fulfilling that need enough? Those 4 different needs were: before booking, do you feel that TUI is supporting you to make the right decision, to book the best holiday for you? During, let's say, the moment from booking till the moment of traveling, is TUI keeping me enough excited and looking forward to the vacation? So apart from just receiving your tickets, what else is it that TUI can do more to make us looking forward to that travel experience? Of course, during the vacation, it's all about escaping from everyday routine, and afterwards, people want to stay in the holiday mood. So they use these 4 higher lying needs in each of the different phases of the travel journey to come up with additional touch points. That were actually helping consumers to fulfill those unmet needs. When we were afterwards measuring the touch point satisfaction and the performance on the consumer needs, and of course, after adding a couple of additional touch points, we could already see that we had 60% of NPS under control. So here you see that if we want to close the experience gap, it's about understanding where it is that consumers are having an interaction with our brand, what they are looking for when they are interacting with our brand, what again the unmet needs are, and trying to realize those unmet needs, trying to fulfill those unmet needs. TUI example was on a strategic level, but we can also think on a more tactical level. When we have found what it is that consumers want, that consumers need, it's about making every touch point perfect, so to speak. And for another brand in the travel world, SkyTeam, we have set up a system that allows customers that are flying with them to constantly report on the experience, not to understand how we can improve the experience, but to understand how, let's say, every touch point can be perfectionalized. So that means that if something goes wrong in a touch point, there is immediately reporting going to the ground staff that can fix it so that for the next customer, it's perfect. So both on a strategic level and on a tactical level, we have to close the experience gap as well. So there are 3 gaps. The empathy gap. Are we having enough empathy for the consumer? Empathy that helps us to understand their lives, that helps us to turn data later on into insights and insights into ideas. Are we closing the relevance gap? Are we actually understanding consumers well enough? And do we have enough ideas in the company to turn relevant insights into relevant solutions? And then finally, are we closing the experience gap? Do we have an idea how consumers experience our brands, what needs to be improved, and how even at a day-to-day level, we can make that everything is perfect by installing direct feedback loops with employees. To close the empathy gap, we need to do more consumer connect. To close the relevance gap, we need more community, finger on the pulse type of research. We can also make use of creative crowdsourcing. And to close the experience gap, we need to constantly track how our consumers, our customers are experiencing our brands. If we close those three gaps, the relevance gap, the empathy gap, and the experience gap, we can gradually move towards more consumer centricity within our organizations and companies. Thank you for listening.